Hi guys! Today we'll be recapping a story called Go Away Romeo. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot. Enjoy! We are all familiar with the tragic story of the star-crossed lovers Romeo and Juliet. But what if someone's story is much more tragic than theirs? What if the one who truly suffered is the one who is left behind? In a city riddled with violence due to the long-standing conflict between two warring families, Rosaline Capulet thought that she had found true love. However, he was the son of her family's enemy. We all know that this was bound to not end well. Romeo Montague was like a dream come true. The moment their eyes met, she knew that what they had was indeed true love. Despite everything, she took the risk. They had a secret relationship far from the judging eyes of others. For a time, he was the only one she could think of, even more so when he proposed to her. It felt natural to say yes to the love of her life, and she only wished that they could marry soon. However, just as quickly as his love for her had swept her off her feet, it also seemed to vanish just as fast. His eyes no longer held the affection it had when he looked at her. It was as if his attention was somewhere else. Gosh, men! No matter how attractive you guys are, you have no right to play with a girl's heart at all. However, despite the possibilities in her mind, she never doubted him. And a few days after, everything came crumbling down when her cousin Juliet died. What made everything worse, at least for her, was that hours later, Romeo was found dead as well. She was so devastated that she felt like her grief would take her life as well. The funerals were held separately, and the two families declared a truce to end the fighting. Both families were scared to reignite the wrath of God that they believed had cost the lives of two young people. Even though everything had turned bleak for Rosaline, the light shined on her when she discovered that Romeo had left her a gift. She was pregnant. Her son had brought happiness into her life. Even though her love was gone, she intended to keep him in her heart. However, fate was even more cruel to her than others. She eventually learned that Romeo and Juliet were lovers and that they faked their death all along. They ran away together and Rosaline was left behind. What a tragic start! An adorable little boy is seen picking a beautiful flower in the garden. The maids are enamored by him, especially when he announces that the flower is as pretty as his mama. So cute. I want to put him in my pocket and keep him safe forever. Meanwhile, Rosaline is facing the wrath of her father. He is enraged that she intends to attend the ball. He doesn't want her to bring any more shame to the family by being proud of her sin. He even insists that the child must not be seen or heard by anyone. You call yourself a father? If anything, you're the shameful one. Ugh. Rosaline, on the other hand, simply addresses her parents calmly. With a determined attitude, she tells them that despite what others think, she is not ashamed to be a mother. You tell them, girl. No matter what they say, she will attend the ball. Later on, as she is getting ready, she recalls how painful the wounds of the past still are. She is now reluctant to trust anyone with her heart again. Suddenly, her son comes barging into the room with a flower from the garden. How cute! He hugs her tightly, and she can't help but wonder if her innocent child will ever know of the pain his father had caused. Mino presents her with the flower, and she accepts it graciously. What happened to her doesn't stop her from loving her son. That's right, Rosaline. Despite the dirt that was covering the child from his adventure in the garden, she carries Mino in her arms, and she tells herself that she refuses to let the past take anything from her. She tells the maid that she should try another dress. Later on, mother and son look stunning in their outfits. Despite the strong opinions of her parents, she is determined to go to the ball unafraid. They even warn her that she's going to have to deal with what's going to happen on her own. We stan a strong, independent woman indeed. The moment Rosaline and her son are announced upon entering the prince's palace, the judging eyes of the crown turn to them. It does not take long for them to open their mouths and begin saying vile things about her and Mino. These people are truly the ones who are shameful. In front of a child? Really? So classic of you. Meanwhile, a devilishly handsome man's opinion is asked by one of the gossiping nobles. He is Count Paris, and he simply observes Rosaline make her way to the prince. Stop looking so broodingly handsome, mister. We're not supposed to be distracted, you know? Rosaline, on the other hand, is resolved to show everyone that they are not what they thought her to be. When she finally faces the prince, she reminds Mino how they are supposed to greet his highness. The two of them bow and greet the prince a happy birthday. The prince smirks at their display. Did I mention that he's incredibly handsome? He is. What's up with this city? Why are the hot guys everywhere? Can we have at least one, please? Prince Aeschylus expresses his surprise at seeing Rosaline present, but declares that it is a pleasure to have her in his celebration. The prince then acknowledges Mino's presence, which makes the crowd snicker. Vile creatures. However, Rosaline is not easily deterred. She compliments the prince by comparing him to the sun. As expected, the arrogant prince likes nothing more than being glorified. He declares that they enjoy their evening in the palace, especially the little one. Thank you for not being bad to our little Mino, our dear prince. Plus handsome points. But despite that, the gossiping nobles are relentless. Hearing them talking endlessly amongst themselves, Rosaline can't help but tremble. Good thing Mino's cuteness powers are there to make her happy. He asks if he did good, and Rosaline assures him he did. She even tells him that he can have cake as a reward. The excited Mino instantly dashes off before she can stop him. Unfortunately, he bumps into Count Paris, who is still brooding, by the way. Mino is startled and goes back to his mother. Rosaline apologizes, but the Count rudely asks her why she even brought the child to the palace. She doesn't like what he's trying to say. Nuh-uh. Bad Count. Rosaline vaguely recognizes the man, and she answers that any noble can attend the prince's birthday celebration. The Count clarifies that he means that the child is probably afraid to be in this kind of situation. She then starts thinking that he is questioning her as a parent. The Count continues to say that she is dragging her son to a cruel environment, all because she is playing a game. Now, wait a minute, mister. You can't just jump to conclusions like this, no matter how undeniably attractive you are. OMG, what am I saying? We are cross with you, Sir Count. Rosaline expresses how he is assuming things about her even though they just met. In return, he tells her how rude it is to conclude his personality on the get-go. She then retorts that he did it first to her. They continue their argument, and despite their clashing opinions at present, I can't help but think that this is the start of something else. They do look good together. Do you guys agree with me? She explains that rather than letting her son perish in the shadows, she will show her son how to be brave and live confidently. Slay, Queen Mother! Mino will be brave just like how you are now. Unexpectedly, the Count kneels in front of Mino and reminds him to stay brave. The adorable little baby smiles at him charmingly and thanks him. He then rubs the boy's head and suggests that they try the strawberry tarts. What a random interaction, right? I tell you, there's something there. Even the sinister-looking young lady over here thinks so, since she notes how she had never seen the Count smiling like that before. While they are trying the desserts, two ladies approach them, and we all know that their intentions aren't pure. They immediately start mocking her for having to raise a son alone. These people have no regard for human decency. Rosaline knows that they are up to no good, but she still asks Mino to greet them properly. Her son smiles at them, and the two ladies, despite their horrible personalities, can't help but note how adorable he is. Suddenly, another young woman, Lady Claudia, approaches them. When Rosaline introduces Mino to her, the child merely trembles. Ugh, she really is sinister looking. Even our Mino sees it. As expected, Lady Claudia begins talking about how lucky she is that the Capulets have not disowned her yet. The other two ladies start backing up Claudia as well, wanting her to give Rosaline what she deserves. However, Rosaline is as level-headed as ever. She describes how her family is kind. Keep it up, girl, we got your back. They then begin asking about the father of Mino. They clearly don't have any good intentions with this line of questioning. Our girl here merely regards them as indifference, stating that she has no obligation to them whatsoever. She even tells them not to discuss such things in front of her son. Meanwhile, Mino is distracted when some noble children begin beckoning him towards them. He excitedly makes his way toward them, but he clashes with a mean-looking noble, causing him to spill his wine onto his shirt. He does not take it well, even though he's dealing with a little kid. He starts shouting at him and calling him all sorts of names. Really mature. Rosaline instantly hides her son behind her while apologizing profusely. She is willing to take responsibility for what happened, but the noble won't accept it, and he even begins preaching about giving the child harsher punishment for being an illegitimate child. Ugh! What a horrible person! It's a freaking adorable child! Rosaline will not let anyone stomp on Mino, so she is about to retaliate. However, a hand on her shoulder stops her. It's Count Paris. He faces the Lord himself and asks the Lord to refrain from such undignified behavior. He reprimands the Lord like a boss for interacting in such a way. Before the noble can add anything, the prince himself approaches them. He stops him from ruining the night even more. The lord is humiliated, so he stomps away from the scene. Serves him right! What kind of grown man would have beef with a kid? Rosaline looks at Count Paris, incredulous that he went out of his way to help her. The Count merely smiles at her. OMG, I am swooning, especially with this knight in shining armor display earlier. Rosaline and the Count are still lost in each other's eyes. When she realizes this, she averts her gaze. The prince, on the other hand, demands to continue the revelry. When everyone else is distracted, Rosaline bows in front of the Count and the prince to express her gratitude. However, she still thinks that she should have handled it herself. She clearly doesn't want others to solve her problems. Suddenly, Mino calls out to her. She notices how badly the situation has affected him. Count Paris declares that her son is in a state of shock and offers to take them someplace else to rest. Why does he have such dazzling purple eyes? I'm getting distracted again. Rosaline refuses his offer. She expresses how appreciative she is, but she wants to take her son home instead of taking a proper break from all these people. She smiles at her son as she leads him away, but the little baby Mino is still teary-eyed from what happened. Oh, poor baby. I want to hug him so bad. Rosaline hears the other nobles gossiping once again, and she has had enough. While carrying her son, she turns back at them and glares menacingly. Do not mess with the queen, people. She will not let anyone hurt her son no matter how entitled you all are. Meanwhile, as they watch Rosaline walk away, the prince warns Paris not to involve himself with her if he wants to preserve his reputation. Back home, her father uses the "I told you so" card, while her mother tells her how she should have listened to them. But she ignores them. Later on, while they're taking a bath, Mino is still crying. He tells her how sorry he is for ruining everything. No, it's not your fault, baby. It's those terrible brought-up old people. Rosaline is shocked by this and instantly hugs her son. She assures him he did nothing wrong. That's right. She tells him that she will always protect him, so she has to be strong. She knows that the commotion had garnered her unnecessary attention. No matter what is to come, she will be ready for it, and she is determined to face it. Mino, despite his obvious sadness, declares that he is strong too, since he did not cry in front of everyone. However, she tells her dear Mino that crying is never shameful. She tells him how he cannot keep all his pain bottled up inside him and never let it out. Otherwise, all of it will explode into something bad. She knows that he will understand when he's older, so for now, she assures him that he can smile brightly, and she will take care of everything. When they are ready for bed, Rosaline offers to tell Mino a bedtime story. The boy is ecstatic since he loves stories. She tells him about Queen Mab, who is the elegant queen of the fairies. She describes how tiny she is and how she dances on top of people's noses when they sleep. At first, Mino doesn't like the idea of a tiny person dancing on his nose, but she explains that she does this to give people good dreams about what they desire the most, such as candies and butterflies. We love their mother-son relationship. Rosaline loves her son so much that it's heartbreaking that she has to deal with so much. Suddenly, Mino declares that he dreams about having a papa. Rosaline is shocked to hear this, but before she can say anything else, her son tells her how sleepy he is. He tells her how he will dream about having a papa along with his mama. Ugh, this is so sad. She observes her son for a while and kisses him on the forehead. She then goes to the balcony and looks at the moon. She is in a melancholic state as she apologizes to Mino that she will not be able to fulfill his dream. She wishes she wasn't alone, but she's not ready to trust anyone. Maybe she never will be, but she vows to make things right. Meanwhile, far away from Verona, the culprit of everything, Romeo, hugs the beautiful Juliet from behind. This is when she tells him that she wants to go home. I fear that everything will just get worse for Rosaline. Romeo asks Juliet to come downstairs. Apparently, she has been wallowing in their room for the whole day. He encourages her by offering the lemon pie that is baked for her. However, she tells him that she's not in the mood for it. He asks her if everything is okay, and she tells him once again that she wants to go home. He hugs his lover again and reminds her that she said that she wished to never go back there again. She hugs him and expresses that she misses some of the things they left behind. Juliet is conflicted because she doesn't want to go back to the life she had before, where her mind was filled with confusion. Romeo had promised to clear all of this, and she has held onto this promise. The reason she is torn between staying in their peaceful life and going back to Verona is that she was the star of that city. Oh, apparently she has an ego to stroke. I'm sorry, Juliet, but I'm on Rosaline's side through and through. She recalls how she was the light they looked up to, and at the same time, they didn't see her for who she was. She describes herself as a hollow star that didn't glow from the inside. She was sheltered by her parents, but she was also displayed as their most prized possession. But a cage of gold is still a cage. Everything was just too heavy to bear. All right, I sympathize with her a little bit. Life like that is not easy. Everything changes when her knight appears. When Romeo had found her, she was begging to be saved. She all but pleaded for him to take her away. And so they left, because the irony is, despite him being her supposed enemy, she never saw him as one. Romeo hugs her back, apologizing for not being able to free her mind of her troubles. She stops him, saying that she really loved their time there together. All she wants is to go back to Verona for a day. She tells him that they can be careful. He wants her to confirm if that is what she really wants, and she answers that she only wants to clear any doubts in her heart once and for all. He then kneels in front of her and holds her chin, agreeing to do as she asks. She is so happy that she jumps into his arms instantly. She declares how much she loves him, and he answers that he loves her too. Too much sweetness. Or I'm probably just biased. However, despite Juliet's happiness, Romeo is seen with an evil glint in his eyes. For a second, he remembers the image of Rosaline with her back turned from him. He apparently had long expected Juliet to suggest going back to Verona, and he had prepared for this beforehand. Why am I getting an incredible amount of evilness from this version of Romeo? Could it be that his romance with Juliet has a more sinister purpose than true love? But one thing is for sure, Rosaline is about to suffer even more. As for Aeschylus, constantly appealing the nobles to get things done gives him a headache. Just the other day, another report of a child falling off the side of a bridge came in. However, despite throwing big parties to gain the nobles' favor, they believe that money should be diverted to their own personal interests and not to public infrastructure, as if Verona isn't a home to all of them. Suddenly, his advisor suggests that he should hold a competition among the nobles to please him. Aeschylus accepts his suggestion and will host a competition of his own choosing in order to push the development project forward. Raising his wine by the window where there's a clear view, Aeschylus thinks that this city will be remembered as a place of pleasure and beauty. Unbeknownst to them, Tybalt is eavesdropping on their conversation behind the door. Meanwhile, Rosaline is running errands in the city as a punishment from her father. But to her, it's rather exciting and important. Also, she wants Mino to grow up with peaceful childhood memories, and to do that, running errands prevents unnecessary arguments in the house. Rosaline breaking generational trauma is the right mother we stand for. However, on their way to the flower shop, Rosaline notices the commotion where a child fell off the bridge and into the river. As a mother, Rosaline can't help but ask, why isn't the prince doing more for the city? I agree, Rosaline. Let's be patient. Shortly after, as Rosaline rants about keeping the children safe, she spotted two familiar faces among the crowd, each wearing their robes to hide their identity while freely roaming around the city. Her heart feels like it's about to burst out of her chest. She can't help but remember the past where she was in a never-ending cycle of misery. Or is she still in it? She was about to call him by the name Romeo, but she gets distracted when Pierre asks if she forgot to get something for Mino. When she looks around, they're gone, but her heartbeat is not slowing down. It's like fate is determined to bring up old ghosts. She then starts to question herself. Is she really doing enough to protect her own son? Pull yourself together, mother. Rule number 1, do not let him get into you. Later that day, Mino welcomes his mother warmly and hugs her. She notices that Mino has a red apple, so she asks where it comes from. Aw, there's nothing else that a mother wishes for but to see her child beaming with joy upon her return. Turns out, Tybalt gave it to him. When she enters the room to meet him, Tybalt casually sits on the couch, perfectly embodying his nickname as the Prince of Cats. I mean, his eyes do look like those of cats. However, Rosaline is determined to do everything through sheer strength of will in order to stand against anyone, despite the rumors circulating the noble houses. But then, Tybalt has something else to offer, an opportunity that won't make her powerless anymore. Sometimes playing with cats can be dangerous, but will she trust him when he says that he won't scratch her? Lady Capulet, the matriarch of the family, summons the whole family to announce that the prince will no longer host more balls. Instead, he has announced a royal arts competition. This event aims to recognize and cement Verona in the advent of the Renaissance era. Rosaline thinks that it is exactly what Tybalt has told her. Still, it isn't enough to trust him. And with this, Lady Capulet sees a chance for their family to gain Aeschylus's favor. And so she will choose those who will be in charge of searching for talent that will represent the Capulet family. Sooner or later, she will choose an heir to the family, and whoever brings the most glory to the Capulets will be named as one. Before Rosaline can speak up, her uncle and father are already arguing who is better to represent the family, bragging about their affluence and connections. Seeing how prepared they are to argue with each other's strengths, Rosaline realizes that Tybalt also informed them ahead. See what I mean? Then, the argument turns into personal attacks and the whole family is in chaos, bickering at each other. So how is she supposed to speak now? Suddenly, Tybalt whispers in her ear, if she wants to survive politics, then she must take advantage of the chaos. Read its air and ride its flow. She's fully aware that Tybalt can't be trusted, but this can be her chance. And so, she snatches the pitcher full of wine and goes up beside Lady Capulet. She then pours some wine in her glass, sympathizing how difficult it must be on her grandmother's side. Lady Capulet notices her, saying that she cannot pass her legacy to a chaotic group like them. Rosaline grabs this opportunity and tells her grandmother that perhaps the person she's looking for is the one she least expects the most. In short, choose her. Lady Capulet is about to take a sip, but she stops and glares at her. She can clearly see what Rosaline is up to. After all, she's a veteran and no one should mess up with her. Lady Capulet asks her directly why she should allow Rosaline to participate when she's the most troublesome in the family. The prince has never been so cordial with the Capulet family, even under Lady Capulet's leadership after all these years. But Rosaline argues that if their family had better connections with the prince, they wouldn't have had this meeting to discuss it in the first place. Perhaps she can be useful. Woohoo! You go, Rosaline! Lady Capulet's lips make a curve. Suddenly, she stomps her cane to call everyone's attention because the lady has decided. As expected, Bernardo and Geronimo will take part in the competition on behalf of the Capulet family, but there's one more thing. Rosaline will also participate. Good decision, Grandma. This makes a lot of objections from the whole family that even Geronimo, Rosaline's father, sided with her brother Bernardo in awfully criticizing that Rosaline has no special qualities and only brings shame in their family name. Wow! Judge her much? Pfft. Rosaline is about to speak up because she can't let them persuade Lady Capulet to disregard her, but then Tybalt raises his hand, saying that he wants to take part in the family head selection as well. And just like that, everyone's attention is diverted to him. Lady Capulet silences them again, emphasizing that her decision is final and irrevocable. Sometimes Tybalt seems like a good person, but we aren't sure about that yet. When the meeting is dismissed, Lady Capulet commends her that she has a way with words, but in the end, it's the results that matters. If she ends up bringing shame once more, she will be shunned and never acknowledged by their family ever again. To her, fate is slowly returning in her favor, so she can't waste this opportunity. With this, her son will not suffer under prejudice and mockery by his own family. He will be loved and respected like she's always wished for herself. How far will she go for her son? Shortly after, Tybalt reminds her that the portrait will hold a significant value for the ones in power to be able to appeal to the public, and putting together an ideal image is crucial in crafting the public opinion of the rulers. Rosaline is quick to grasp what he's trying to say, that whoever is able to have control over the art also has control over the economy of nobles. While in deep thought, something catches her attention, a famous cityscape painted a few years ago. However, the painter by the name of Count Paris hasn't painted in years. Count Paris, it rings a bell. He's the best one in Verona, and Aeschylus himself used to commission him for all his portraits. Despite being the best, he stopped after his beloved died. Indeed, he's a genius painter who never picks up the brush again after he lost his muse. But Rosaline is still determined to ask this man. However, Tybalt warns her that a lot of people failed to convince him to paint again. It's like she'll be wasting her time going to him. Why is he stopping her now? Something's already fishy at this point. Tybalt then asks her to look for another painter instead, but she knows very well that he isn't the type to back off when he wants something. What did that man do to make Tybalt avoid him? Even so, Paris is the winning key to this competition, so she has to convince him. Well, it turns out that Count Paris is the same man from the ball. Rosaline knows that he's most likely to say no to her, given their last interaction, but then Paris tells her that he might be able to have some of his connections to assist her under one condition. He gives her a list containing the materials they will require. However, these are rare and hard to find. If she can get it by the end of the day, then he'll introduce her to them. Wait there, sir. That's quite tight for a deadline. But of course, she'll do what it takes to get it. Rosaline expresses her gratitude for this opportunity and takes her leave. Paris is looking out the window when his butler reminds him that he gave her an impossible task. After all, the dragon blood pigment alone will be difficult to find because of its mythical reputation. But for her sake, she shouldn't get herself involved in Aeschylus's political game, nor he wants to take part of it. Oh, so you want to keep her safe, huh? How nice of you, handsome fella. Also, it's a shame to see the city damage the value of art. The pursuit of art in its purest form has been tainted, and it's been a long time since he had the passion to pick up a paintbrush. Later that evening, while Paris is taking a hot bath, he thinks that Rosaline has given up since it's already late. When he saw those decisive gleams in her eyes, he had a brief worry that she might actually go ahead and do it. This is for the best. Or so he thought. He then hears resistance outside, so he goes out on the balcony only to see Rosaline covered in mud and wounds, arguing with the guard to let her go inside and see Paris. Whoopsie. That's not the face of someone who gave up at all. Paris's eyes widen in disbelief. Despite being soaked in rain, she came holding the bag of dragon blood in her hands. But due to exhaustion, her body has collapsed. Luckily, he is able to catch her with one hand. When she regains consciousness, she wonders where she is. To find out, she leaves the room, but then she encounters Paris's butler. He escorts her to another room where Paris is. There, she expresses her gratitude for his generosity. For Paris, it seems like he underestimated her stubbornness. After all, she has obtained the dragon blood, which must not have been easy. Looking back, Rosaline admits that it wasn't easy at all. Suffice to say, she still managed to get it. Looking proud, isn't she, sir? However, she wasn't able to obtain the rest of the materials within the given time, so Paris tells her that she still failed. However, Rosaline argues, saying that before he belittles her efforts, perhaps he should take a shot at it first. She even declares that they can talk about more reasonable deadlines after that. She's the girl boss here, sir. She knows what she wants. So just a tip, don't even try to make it harder on you both, because she'll get what she wants no matter what. Period. But still, Paris disagrees, arguing about how easy it is for nobles to use their influence and connection in the market. He then starts to question how he can rely on a partner if she can't even do it. Ugh. Rosaline knows better. She is well aware that he sent her on a fool's errand to drive her away. See? You didn't see that coming, right? There is a long pause before Paris admits, telling her that for her own safety, she should stay out of it. But our dear Rosaline isn't even afraid of it. Even if she has to find someone else, she would for the sake of her son. Paris stared at the wound on her hand. He then crosses his arms and tells her that he will obtain the rest of the materials and paint for her. She has the grit and bearings to have a fighting chance in this kind of politics, and she has proven herself as a trustworthy individual, despite her shortcomings. See, that wasn't so hard, right? Saying yes? You shouldn't have put up a fight in the first place, dear sir. Before she leaves, Paris advises her not to solely rely on her recklessness because he will be her partner in this game. Can we ask for an extension of this partner thingy? Partner for life, perhaps? Kidding. I don't think so. Before she can go in the carriage, Paris's butler warns her of the man named Tybalt. When Paris's butler reunites with him, he never thought that he'd give in to Rosaline, not when he has been avoiding politics for so long. In short, he hasn't seen Paris this thrown off in many years. In Paris's defense, it's unavoidable to be part of Aeschylus's little game, so he prefers to do it on his own terms. Okay, if you say so, sir, but is that all to it? When Rosaline gets home, Tybalt is the first person who asks her where she has been. Talk about acting like a house husband. He is curious why she didn't ask him for help when Paris sent her on a little mission. She could have uttered a word and he could have pulled the strings himself, but Rosaline cut to the chase. After revealing the information he had to her father and uncle, she can't definitely trust him. Also, she tells him how Paris's butler warned her about it, but all he can say is that he could have told her that himself. He's not even denying it, huh? Then, he notices her wound and quickly grabs the bandage out of his pocket to wrap around her hand, asking what she plans to do. Wait, what? Is he bipolar or something? Why is he acting concerned now? But then, she refused his help and told him that she would follow the advice but will make the final judgment herself. He reminds her that trusting someone can take a lot out of her. He wonders if it's going to be different for her this time. After that, he whispers in her ear, wishing her a good night's sleep. But to her, it's rather a chilly greeting crawling up her spine, remembering the last time she was betrayed. Honestly, Tybalt, are you trying to help or what? In Mino's room, the child wakes up when Rosaline kisses his forehead. When he notices the wound on her hand, he holds it dearly onto his cheek, crying to see his mother in pain. Am I just overthinking it, or did Tybalt want to cover her wound so the child wouldn't be able to see his mother in pain? We are getting more and more confused here, Tybalt. Show us the real you soon, please. Rosaline didn't see this coming, so she promises that she's strong and will handle everything. The next day, rumors circulate about Rosaline's connection with a mysterious benefactor. Bernardo seems to know about this too, but when Geronimo comes in to mock him in minding women's conversation, he returns the insult, pointing out how Geronimo's daughter is already a significant blow to their reputation. Also, Bernardo found out that the event in the palace and its record officially recognizes both Rosaline and Mino as possible inheritor candidates of the Capulet family. Fuming with rage and fear that they might be taken down, Bernardo points out how Geronimo can't even control his own daughter. Geronimo clenches his fist, denying his claims, but in his mind, he needs to do something about her. Geronimo slams the door. On the other hand, Bernardo grits his teeth in anger, thinking how the Count dares to disrespect him like that. Meanwhile, Rosaline visits Paris's mansion, but his butler tells her that Paris doesn't wish to see anyone at the moment. Rosaline argues that they agreed to work together, so what seems to be the problem now? Paris's butler tries to make her understand that Paris just wants to do most of the work by himself. Rosaline apologizes, but as partners, they must see this through because the Count needs to know the value of having an extra head in the equation. Of course, he can't get rid of her that easily. Once again, Paris's butler is impressed by how stubborn and clever she is. Well, that is our queen. No point in resisting, butler. She's unstoppable. And so Paris's butler escorts her to a room, but little does she know, it's the room where Paris works on his painting. The sun rays crawl up to reach his broad shoulders, while his hair dances in the sparkling light's reflection. Not to mention his unbuttoned polo, as if the sun is just a mere light compared to how hot he is. He is the real painting here, you guys. Don't you agree? Suddenly, Paris asks for the palette, brush, tray, spatula, another brush with the finest tip, and all without even turning around. Of course, our mother runs over here and there to meet his demands without making a sound. She notices how his fingers move gracefully in every stroke he creates with surety. Those eyes that continuously wander from every edge of the canvas, the paintbrush that seems to have become part of his being. It's almost intoxicating. Paris wipes his sweat with his wrist. Wait a minute. This isn't the time for independency, sir. Rosaline is there, so kindly turn around and ask for a little help. And yes, he does turn around and is very surprised to see her standing before him. But well, she's just as surprised as he is. Who wouldn't be? I mean, eyes locking up on those abs? I mean, we should stop this, guys. They're just workmates. Or are they? Rosaline admits that she insists on coming in. Paris then remembers how suspicious it was when his butler looked a bit happy when he told him to find a perfect assistant. She is indeed perfect. Good job, butler. Paris senses that she has something to say. With all honesty, she feels bad seeing him paint. And so she apologizes for treating his art as a mere tool to win Aeschylus's competition. But above all, she is greatly honored to witness such skill. Paris stares at her for a moment. For the first time since they met, he smiles for her. And so she becomes his assistant for the rest of the day. When the servant brings the food, Paris's butler offers to take it in when the time is right. He clearly understood the assignment. High five, butler! Seeing Paris having the motivation to paint again, and Rosaline, who seems amused by his art, is such a wonderful sight to see. For the rest of the day, Paris smiles in between the strokes of his art. And did I mention how handsome you look, Sir Putty? Days later, Mino also joins his mother in watching Count Paris paint. He surely enjoys staying at the Count's estate as he gets comfortable munching on his dessert. Meanwhile, a smile forms on the Count's lips as he glimpses at Rosaline with her son. Feeling his gaze on her, she approaches him and thanks him for allowing her to bring her child to his house. Gracefully holding the brush and palette in both his hands, He tells her that it's not a problem since he offered to have the kid in his house, as she was having a difficult time being away from Mino. Such a very understanding man we have here. Can we also invite ourselves to your house, sir? And just watch you paint all day? Rosaline observes that Paris hasn't made much progress in his painting over the past few days. With a hint of worry on her face, she asks him if everything is all right. In her mind, she ponders on why he is hailed as the most renowned artist in the city. She's always in great awe of the way he moves his brush, which for her is such a sight to see. But lately, she has observed that the Count seems to be down and that something is weighing on his mind. Paris, on the other hand, is having an inner monologue about how he can't seem to find inspiration lately. He thinks about introducing Rosaline to another artist, but then he thinks about how she has trusted him already and he doesn't want to let her down. Meanwhile, Mino, who's intently observing Paris painting some strokes on the canvas, gets excited, and his eyes sparkle upon seeing the painting. He suddenly exclaims that he wants to paint too. With excitement rushing over him, he accidentally knocks over the bucket of paint, making him shout as he's about to fall. As quick as light, Rosaline and Paris rush to Mino. Both of them end up catching Mino before he could fall to the floor. Just look at that scene. The three of them in one frame and very close to each other. It just looks so adorable that you could think that they are one cute family. Fingers definitely crossed. When they get up, he asks her if her son is all right, but she replies with an apology for what just happened. Seeing the paint that just got knocked off, making a mess on the floor, she reprimands her son and tells him to apologize to the Count. Trembling, Mino apologizes to Paris, but what happens next is not what he expected. Paris gently pats his head and comforts him. The Count tells him that he was once in his shoes, being so enthusiastic about art. Just then, he dips his brush into the paint dripping on the floor, saying that he is just reminded that inspiration can come from unexpected things. Later, he becomes happy seeing how the color of the paint turned out to be perfect for his painting. Everything turned out well, and Mino is so happy that he gets to paint together with Paris. The scene of both of them together makes Rosaline pleased. Gosh, he's so perfect. I want a man like that too. However, it's revealed that someone is watching them secretly, as there is a shadow lurking outside the room they're in. Rosaline is very excited and in such a lovely mood, as she would finally get to see the painting finished. Just as she thought that everything has been going well, some news shatters her. The painting that Paris has been diligently working on for days got cruelly destroyed. Who could have committed such an unacceptable act? It seems like something sinister is brewing. Shocked by what happened to the painting, Rosaline suggests conducting an investigation, but Paris tells her not to bother as he will handle the situation. With his darkened expression, he turns his back and tells his butler to stay with Rosaline. With the person on his mind who might be behind the incident, he recalls the encounter he had with Bernardo the other day. Bernardo confronted him about his partnership with Rosaline, but he replied that it was of his own accord to help Rosaline. He continued by saying how disheartening it is to see how much he's changed. But then Bernardo, out of the blue, brought up his daughter Juliet and blames Paris for her death. So Juliet was the rumored Count's lover who died? Bringing up Juliet to Paris just further soured his mood, making him snap at Bernardo. Meanwhile, back in the present at the Count's estate, Rosaline asks the butler to watch over her son before she follows Paris. When she catches up with him, she asks for an explanation of his sudden outburst from earlier. With a heavy heart, he apologizes to her, saying that he can't be her partner anymore. Determined, she replies that both of them are supposed to be a team. She comforts him, saying that he shouldn't deal with the situation on his own. Still turning his back to her, he says that it is not her problem and he is solely to blame for what happened. It's me. Hi. I'm the problem, it's me. Sorry, his statement reminds me of Taylor's anti-hero. #Swiftie. Rosaline is feeling an urge to pry answers from him, so she lets her emotions win and asks him what is troubling him. Realizing that she deserves to know what happened to him, he starts narrating how his experience being on the verge of saving someone he treasures, but only to fall short and fail halfway. That it was his fault for losing such a person, and he goes on days being haunted by regret. Meanwhile, hearing his story reminds her of those days with Romeo. The grief she feels from his story seems like a mirror of herself when she lost Romeo. She concludes that she and the Count are in the same shoes. The only difference is that unlike her, who has moved on, he is still stuck in his past. Realizing how much pain he's bearing by himself, she tells him that she will not force him anymore to do the painting and that she can look for another partner. Bowing to his back, she expresses her gratitude to him and walks away. Surprisingly, he stops and closes the distance between them. He then offers her to provide indirect assistance through his connections. When she questions his decision, he firmly expresses his commitment to helping her. Commit romantically too, please! In the Imperial Palace, Rosaline graces the prince, but he mocks her because she seems to not have anything prepared. Well, we all know that our girl is a fighter and doesn't back down from challenges. Can't wait to see what trick she has up her sleeve. The judging day begins for the competition, and the capital is hyped up about it, looking forward to who will win. The different nobles then begin presenting their art to the prince, who's getting bored as he criticizes in his mind the people feasting in front of him. Even though they seem to show interest in art, everyone just wants to play their part in the competition to show off their wealth. But then, there's another person he thinks is an exception from these people and wonders what she's been up to. With boredom striking him, he remembers what Rosaline had told him regarding why she wasn't able to present him with the art for the competition. But she told him that she had prepared something for him and in hopes that he'll like it. Snapping from his thoughts of her, he is hoping that she would at least save him from the boredom he is in. Now, as everyone is anticipating knowing, the prince declares his winner for the competition. It is none other than Bernardo Capulet with his commissioned artist. This is so unfair! If Bernardo didn't destroy the Count's painting, for sure Rosaline together with Count Paris would win. No. Bernardo's painting will now be displayed in the front square for all the people to see. As they parade going to the square, they observe that there's a commotion going on. Strangely, the citizens keep thanking the prince as they cross paths with him. Despite his royal guard's request to stay put, he walks on his way to check what's causing the fuss. Surprisingly, it turns out that Rosaline is distributing a piece of paper to everyone, and he asks for one. The content of the paper shocks everyone. What could be on the paper that earned such a reaction from them? Bernardo is annoyed by the crowd that's blocking his way. He angrily shouts, commanding them to move. But he gets interrupted by Lady Capulet, who also happens to be holding the piece of paper that Rosaline is distributing. The lady commends what Rosaline has done, making Bernardo's face pale. Lady Claudia, who also got a hold of the paper, gets shocked upon checking it. It turns out that on the paper is a sketch portrait of none other than the prince. The other thing that is making the portrait so controversial is that it was done with the help of the commoners. Many would surely want to disqualify the sketch as part of the competition, but it would be an impossible thing since the portraits bear the sign of Count Paris and his artisans. The sign holds such power that disregarding it would mean that they're facing the most influential group of the city. Woo! The power that our Count holds! And the cunningness of our Rosaline! Girl is on fire! They better bow down to them! On the other hand, Lady Capulet, who is amazed by her granddaughter's stunt, tells her two sons Geronimo and Bernardo that she'll let Rosaline partake in the family meeting and let her express her opinions. Her statement angers the two, and they find it very unacceptable. That's what you get. Clearly annoyed by how they respond to her words, she lashes out at them for questioning her decision. She adds that Rosaline might not have won the competition, but she surely won something bigger, and it's the prince's heart. She keeps on complimenting Rosaline for her creativity in playing with the messy game of politics and highly acknowledges her. As she well deserves. So proud of our girl. Meanwhile, Rosaline, who's standing out brightly in the crowd, glances at Paris, who is just in the distance. She ponders how he has been of a great help to her. Through his connections, she was able to meet the best artist who aided in pulling off her stunt, which shocked everyone. He was at her back throughout her entire plan, fully supporting her in every way he could. He's such a man. No, he is the man. While Paris, on the other hand, keeps staring at her from afar, he comments on how Rosaline for him is quite something. And it seems like he isn't the only one who thinks the same, as she has now captured the prince's attention. Suddenly, someone catches Rosaline's eye. In the midst of the crowd, there are two figures that cover themselves in hooded cloaks. The other figure turns his head toward Rosaline, and it turns out that he is Romeo. You mother F! My apologies. I just can't help but get heated up with this guy. Wondering about the festivities happening in the capital, Juliet, who's with Romeo, asks him if they should see what's happening for themselves. He agrees, but when he sees Rosaline being crowned by the prince, he changes his mind and suggests they should keep going, reasoning that there might be someone who can recognize them. On the day of the judgment of the competition, it is Bernardo who has been officially proclaimed as the winner. But it is a short-lived winning moment for him, as the memory of his victory blows past in the people's minds. That's what you get for doing such dirty tricks. Meanwhile, even though Rosaline is not held as the official winner of the competition, what she accomplished is beyond valuable and will go on for many years to come. You go, girl. You deserve everything after going through those series of mischief thrown at you. In the house of the Capulets, a letter bearing the royal seal has arrived for Rosaline, making her wonder what it could be about. While descending the stairs while reading the letter, she surprisingly sees Tybalt with her son. When she asks when he arrived, he replies that he just arrived and adds that he happens to be teaching Mino some skills. He then asks the kid to greet her. With such a great posture, Mino greets his mother so gracefully. Such a charming kid. After commending him for doing a great job, Tybalt turns his attention to Rosaline and asks her about the letter she's holding. She answers him that it is just about Prince Aeschylus summoning her for a private audience. He then congratulates her, and she thanks him in return. It seems like he wants to say something to her, but when she asks if he has, he is quick to say there's nothing. His expression tells me he has something to say to her, though. Responding to the letter sent to her, she arrives at the palace with the thought that she didn't expect to be back there so soon. On her way to Prince Aeschylus, with the royal butler leading the way, she stumbles upon Lady Claudia together with her two other ladies. They are clearly annoyed by her presence, and they don't even return her greetings. Such rudeness! Truly, they are just jealous and bitter. Arriving at the outside of the palace, Rosaline is escorted to the private lake. What welcomes her is the sight of the prince bathing in the lake. Surprising her, Aeschylus catches a fish by his hand. He then acknowledges her and even invites her to join him in the lake, adding that the cool water of the lake truly takes the heat off. Would you mind if we joined you, Your Highness? We need to cool down with the sight of you bathing naked in that lake, too. Maintaining the formalities between them, Rosaline refuses his offer. Observing her being so stiff and formal around him, he tells her that she can loosen up a bit. After exchanging some words regarding the intention of the letter she received from him, she directly asks why he called for her. He tells her that he had taken an interest in her, especially in what she pulled during the competition finale. He continues, saying that he sees some parts of himself in her, the feeling of being watched and where everyone sees you rise and fall. He continues to compliment her as he draws closer to her, making his naked body more exposed. Oh my God, stop! We're gonna melt, dear prince. Not long after, the distance between them is very close, and his torso is very exposed. It's only the water that's covering his lower body. Flustered, Rosaline blushingly tells the prince to get something to put on, but he just keeps messing around with her reaction. Just as she's having her inner thoughts that the prince being near is not good for her heart, the prince asks her if she would like to marry him. OMG, what just happened? We were just witnessing his well-toned body, and the next thing we know, he offers her marriage? What about us? Rosaline is taken aback by what Aeschylus has just declared to her. After recovering from it and composing herself, she questions his offer. He expects her reaction to say that it will be natural for her to think that his offer is a joke. However, he shares the possibilities if they were to get married and that both of them would make a wonderful pair. Not siding with his offer, she refuses it and brings up her son, saying that it is her Mino above anything else. So he gives up on playing with her. But what she doesn't realize is that the distance between them has become so close. He even poses, flaunting his body. This is a good picture for wallpaper, but so unnecessary, Your Highness. Normal people don't just have conversations with others while they're naked. Not that we're complaining, though. Like, at all. Out of nowhere, a white cloth flies into the prince's face, and he is asked to put it on. It turns out to be Paris. He quickly checks on Rosaline, and she assures him that she is fine. I smell a slight jealousy somewhere in France. The prince defends himself, saying that he didn't mean anything indecent, but Paris nags at him and says that he's worried about Rosaline. She then assures him to stop worrying, since she reveals that the prince was just joking before he arrived. When he asks what the prince was joking about, the prince nonchalantly replies that he tried to ask for her hand in marriage but got rejected. Confused by the prince's strange actions, he questions him if something happened or if someone is threatening him. But the prince assures him that there is none and remarks that a storm is brewing and that it's approaching fast. What could he mean by that? The prince then asks if they are up for some coffee. As they go together on their way, the prince looks behind him and ponders that the two are kind of people he rarely meets, so he intends to keep them by his side. I agree with you on that one, gorgeous prince. As the night envelops the town, in an alley, Tybalt faces a mysterious cloaked man. He talks to the man, saying that their meetings have become more frequent. The man faces Tybalt with a knife in his hand, saying that his master greets him. The man swiftly attacks Tybalt, but he is quick to dodge it, grabs the knife from him, and holds him hostage with it. Out of nowhere, a group of cloaked men appears and attacks Tybalt, making him lie on the ground bleeding. The man who seems to lead the group talks to Tybalt, saying that his inevitable downfall will begin tonight. Tybalt recognizes the man's voice and refers to him as Romeo's lapdog. Tybalt is tied to a chair, and when his consciousness comes back, he faces a man who greets him. With a sly smile on his face, Tybalt calls the man Mercutio, and he just gets smacked hard in the face. Ouch! That must have hurt so much. After exchanging insults with each other, Mercutio is about to punch Tybalt again when a loud voice booms, stopping him. Romeo appears and greets the beaten-up Tybalt. Tybalt asks Romeo what he has done to put him in such a poor state. Romeo confronts him about working closely with Juliet's father. Tybalt then defends himself, saying that it is just a misunderstanding, and confirms that he's still on his side. He then asks him to release him so he can explain himself well, to which Romeo agrees. On the other hand, the palace gets busy preparing for a celebration. It is planned to be the grandest revelry of the season. Unexpectedly, the prince asks for Rosaline's help in the preparation of the 3-day-long celebration. The prince greatly appreciates her assistance despite his last-minute request. The two discuss different matters to take into account for the party, and she is very enthusiastic about it. They then decide to take a break, and on their way, they meet the high priest. After the high priest greets his highness, he shamelessly insults Rosaline, but he's frozen after the prince threatens him. That's what you get for messing with our girl. Thank you, your highness. She points out to him that the insults won't just stop because of a mere warning from him, but he explains that he doesn't like the idea of them talking down to her in front of him. They continue their conversation about power and trust. When both of them check the town, a commotion is happening. Just after they ask what the commotion is all about, they hear the high priest exclaiming that there's a sign from heaven. The high priest continues his statement, revealing to everyone that the tombs of Romeo and Juliet have been found empty. Hold up. Romeo and Juliet and heaven don't coincide with each other at all. Rosaline is shocked and left pale by the announcement. Lurking in the crowd with them is Mercutio, holding a small cross. So guys, what do you think of this story so far? Please subscribe and turn on notifications for updates on this and all our other stories, so you can be the first to find out when they're out. Thank you so much for your support. See you in the next one!